Thanks a lot for setting the stage. As pointed out by the moderator, logistics and mobility are among the most dynamic and vibrant industries on the ground in Indonesia. And I'm very glad to be given the opportunity today to spend time with Eric Dharma, Group President at Waresix, as well as Paul Soegianto, Chief Strategy Officer at Bluebird, to discuss in deeper. But before we're going to jump right into the topic, I'd love to hand over to my co-panelists to quickly introduce themselves and point out the unique value propositions that their respective organizations have brought to the market. Eric, why don't you kick off?
Sure. Hi, Leon, and thanks for the quick intro. So my name is Eric. I'm president of Waresix, and I guess to give some backstory, I joined up with Waresix after like a decade-long career in FMCG and agriculture, where I basically personally experienced a lot of the pain points associated with logistics, right? The same pain points that now Waresix is trying to solve, right? And I guess the way I looked at it was that there was this fundamentally poor user experience, especially for us, customers located in a remote agrarian area. And so, you know, a lot of this was associated with, I categorize it as uncertainty, right? We just never knew what quality of truck or what size of truck or when it would arrive, right? And so there's just this uncertainty would permeate everything we do in a lot of our planning, right? So one of the reasons why I joined Waresix was precisely because when I spoke to the team, I knew that they really understood my problem, right? And I really liked how their approach to solving it, it really resonated with my pain points, and it felt like, yes, this is a solution that can work.
Thanks, Eric. And I'm sure we'll learn more about the insightful solutions that Waresix has developed to solve those trucking and sort of customer experience issues you pointed out. But before we do that, Paul, handing over to you, why don't you mind giving a quick introduction to yourself and to Bluebird Group to the audience?
Hi, everyone. My name is Paul. So let's start about Bluebird, right? Bluebird is probably one of the biggest transportation company in the world. We have about like 25,000 vehicles that ranging from taxi, rental car until buses. Right? In the holding, we also have like the logistic part, which is called like as Ironbird. So you know, Rand, Bluebird, Golden Bird, Silverbird, Big Bird, and also Ironbird. Okay. What I'm doing actually, part of my job is actually transforming this company, starting as a very conservative company into like a very high tech, like modern transportation and also logistic company. So starting 2020, we created like a new business unit, which is actually doing a lot of delivery and logistic during the pandemic. So we're transforming the company that basically doing only passenger and also transporting goods, which is doing very well. Actually, it's one of our major growth at the moment. So we are actually adapting and also doing agility to transform the company into where we are now. And yes, we're going to talk a bit about Bluebird, the transformation, what we are doing with logistics and during the pandemic. It's very interesting.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Complementing and to moderate the panel is myself, Leon. I'm a venture partner at Kejora Capital, based out of Jakarta. Kejora, one of the largest and leading Southeast Asia firms, investing both early and growth stage. So let's go right into the topic, logistics and mobility, by having a bit of a look in the back mirror. Over the last 10 years, both of your industries have been growing double digit, among the leading and most fastest growing industries that were there in Indonesia. How have you, as C-level and as leaders of your organizations, been perceiving what were the tailwinds that enabled the growth of this industry? And how have you, as an organization, developed your products to address the tailwinds that you've seen in the market? Maybe keeping it at Paul here.
Okay, so we are actually in the majority of our industry as a Bluebird is actually in transporting passenger, right? We have been hit very hard during the disruption time because when starting with Uber, Grab, Gojek, and so on, right? And after that with the COVID pandemic. But that's not stopping us like becoming like a pretty innovative and changing the game, where we actually are leveraging a lot with our partnership. So how actually we can grab into the situation? We actually created a lot of partnership with the existing company to create a new business inside Bluebird. The partnership is not only for to create like a new business like the logistic delivery area, but also to create the automation inside the company so we can reduce our cost tremendously, so we can compete pretty well for the future, where we actually already improve our basic cost, so we are very lean. Therefore, we can compete for the future for this. Yeah, for the same cost, we can deliver more productivity, more value to the customer. So that's how actually we can create the tailwind during the situation. We don't have the double digit and that passenger because it's the competition and also the COVID, but we have the double digit in the logistic and delivery area.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Handing over to you, Eric, you briefly touched upon the lacking customer experience, particularly in rural Indonesia, but certainly without question, logistics has been one of the most dynamic industries that have been growing. What were sort of underlying reasons for logistics coming into such a dynamic industry, and how has Waresix sort of formulated its go-to-market in order to best capture the market?
Well, first of all, Paul, we should talk after this about the logistics opportunities. But it's funny that you put it in such a way that it's like dynamic, right? Because yes, logistics is a fundamental part of our economy, right? And it really underpins a lot of what we do as a nation, really. And it's like it's exposed to basically every segment of the economy, right? And so as the economy has grown, right, obviously there's been a lot of tailwind on that end. But has logistics been a dynamic industry, right? I would argue that, really it hasn't changed much, right? We moved from calls to emails to WhatsApp, right? But it's still very much a manual process, still very much lacking in transparency, right? So, yes, it's taking up approximately a quarter of our GDP, right? So yes, it's grown, right? But I guess this is kind of where the Waresix approach to the business comes in, right? Where, you have this increasing number of players, you have this increasing complexity, an increasing overall uncertainty into, how to go about your business. And, so our model is simply, we come in, operational excellence is our foundation, right? That's how we serve our customers well, and that's how we build our tech. Right? You have to be able to execute, right? Logistics, you got to get the goods from A to B, right? If they don't show up, they show up late, you have a problem. And what we do is we take this and then we kind of use tech to reduce that said uncertainty, right? You use tech to accelerate it. You use tech to allow your customers to make better decisions by making the process transparent. Right, and I see this as being the real tailwind, and I know we might get into this later, but even during COVID, right, this is the tailwind that is allowing this very kind of typically traditional industry to kind of modernize and digitize and come into the new age.
That's very helpful. A quick follow up here. Certainly, logistics is a $270 billion industry. It has already been fundamental in its size, but at the same time, there's been a lot of buzz lately around how e-commerce and the growth of e-commerce has also fueled the growth in the entire logistics industry. Given CAGR over the next 5 years of still north of 30%, close to it. How has your organization really seen the dynamics of the e-commerce market influencing the sort of B2B logistics and supply chain aspect of the business? Has that been an impact for you as well?
That is a great question, right? So basically with e-commerce, you have two forces at play, right? You have a change in market dynamics where traditional players are now seeing like, oh, there's a new, business segment that we are not necessarily great at, right? And this is alarming. And it's also an opportunity, right? And the second part is that the e-commerce players are now big customers unto themselves, right? So when I see these two things, I approach them differently. The first one, when I see these traditional players, what we offer them is basically a chance to, accelerate their modernization, right? We can help you to, be your tech partner, right? But we can also help you to be operationally excellent because that is our ethos, right? We're using tech and the operational excellence mentality in order to build what we call efficiency driving logistics activities, right? And these are things that they've been trying to do, but because of the lack of transparency, it's been very difficult. So things like, it's Indonesia, so you need multimodal, right? You need to have a combination of land, sea, and warehouse in order to get it all across the nation. Well, having technology and knowing where the assets are, that really helps in planning, right? Hub transiting, things like, circumventing the week-long waits at destinations, right? By, using warehouses as intermediary storage areas. That is the kind of thing that blends what they've done in the past and what we can achieve with tech that will allow them to, kind of leapfrog. Yeah.
That's very helpful, Eric. And certainly focus on operational excellence, on delivering best-in-class customer experience have been the fundament of your company's great successes over the last years since inception. But last year, there was a game changer. COVID came, COVID hit. And each and every single industry globally almost has been impacted in one way or the other. So Paul, I'd be very curious, you briefly mentioned, how have you experienced the impact of COVID for Bluebird, and how have you responded as an organization to address the new playing field in the market?
I'm going to tell you a bit of story about how our company doing adaptive methods to survive in this company. So can you imagine, suddenly in March 2020, the revenue down for 85% for passenger. So your cost stay the same, right? Suddenly you get like a lot of losses, and how are you going to survive? Yeah? This is where actually our methods, like how to create adaptability inside the company to survive until now. Number one, we create a very clear balance here. We renegotiate all the debt, we're restructuring the debt. Number two, create a cost-saving methods, right? We push the automation, reduce the cost by 30%. Yeah? Still not enough. Number three, create new business, which is actually logistics and warehousing, where we get our double-digit growth from this business unit. So that's actually how we balance the situation during the COVID. Yeah, so we can still survive and maintain and going further. So for us, is COVID actually opening another opportunity, another eyes for us. What can we do? What can we even actually explore more? So what we do more? Automation, right? Digitalization. We transform the whole backbone, the whole infrastructure into the full cloudification, where actually we save a lot of costs, create a lot of automation. Next, create the new business, logistic, warehousing, create the growth for us. Simple things, very logical, but that's how a company should do.
Thanks a lot, Paul. And a quick follow-up here. I believe the concept of automation is starting to become increasingly popular at a global scale. The question is just, where does it make sense for me to implement automation or not? Because it's also always a function of labor cost, right? Where in the US, we're looking at self-driving cars, we're looking at automation in robotics, in drones and similar. We are in Indonesia at a different scale, at least in terms of labor costs. How are you perceiving the opportunities that automation brings in an Indonesia context where labor costs are just fundamentally different from the US, European markets and others?
Yeah, there are actually two parts that going to start the way you're thinking about the labor cost. Number one, our labor cost is not the cheapest anymore. Number two, you need automation to reduce the mistake that human mistake done, okay? And to create automation to make it faster. So just give example, right? One procurement process took like 5 days because there was like 3 people involved and then 3 level of authority to validate it. What if you can automatize it and then it takes from 5 days into only 2 hours? Okay? Just thinking like how many finance people actually can actually do their job more efficiently, more effectively. And what if the people in the maintenance, in the shop floor, can do their job according to what already scheduled, according to time. So the cars came out from the maintenance facility already looking bright, full automatized according to what we need, instead of the cars has to come back to the maintenance facility 2 times in a month. That's actually the sense of the real sense of automation. a lot of people making a mistake when they are talking about digitization is actually to digitize everything. No, you need to digitize, but actually the best point to create to improve your process flow inside the company. So yeah, no, it's not. It's not to compare. Our competitor is not US and so on. You need to compare with other countries. You need to compare it with Vietnam. You need to compare it right, to China, right? All these new companies, all these new countries actually becoming the new emerging market, right? There where you need to compete, not comparing to US. You need to compare even like lower than that.
Of course, and what a thought-provoking statement. I'm sure we can go on for hours discussing in details on the degree of automation necessary, but I'm sure we all would love to hear more from Eric's perspective as among the leading supply chain players. How has COVID impacted your company, and how have you addressed the sort of new level playing field in the market?
Well, I guess to answer this, first I would refer back to a little bit of what Paul said, right? There is a desire from companies like Bluebird, forward-thinking maybe companies that that they want to improve, right? Continuous improvement, automation, digitization. But to be honest, like logistics, it took a huge hit in during COVID, right? At some point it was down like 40%, right? Maybe not the same bombastic number that Paul shared for passenger, but I mean, overall, the whole industry, because it's so exposed to everything the economy does, it was a bit worrisome. You know, but luckily, we are on the portion of the business that has more tailwind associated with it, right? And so, you know, what we did was actually, you know, number one, you reevaluate how you measure risk, right? Because in this business, risk really matters, right? What is, you know, how late are you going to get paid? Right? How well are you going to be able to collect, right? Really matters. But the second thing we did was we wanted to take advantage of this, you know, leverage this changing perspective and desire to invest in the future, right? So if there is this desire to automate, right, we're very well positioned to do that, right? And so, you know, we experienced firsthand where people, customers, MNCs even, when we would come in and talk to them about digital invoicing, they'd be like, I don't need that. I actually like physical invoices. It's great for me. It helps keep me organized. But then, you know, COVID rolls around. They're like, whoa, let's revisit this paperless solution, right? And from there, we can then build a lot. We did build a lot of the ideas that we had. So not just digital invoicing, but actually, how can we integrate the digital documents with track and trace for the product, so we can actually get the physical documents there faster, right? Things like that. And I would say that this new openness to adopt new technology is what allows us to, you know, it allowed us to open the doors with a lot of the major players. And, you know, we never really invested in marketing because we believe that the strongest form of marketing is word of mouth, right? And so, you know, one big customer has led to another big customer, to another big customer, right? And so it's been a really tough time for the nation and the economy as a whole, but luckily, you know, we're at record levels, right? And yeah.
Fantastic, sure. And I believe openness to new technologies, building resilience, reevaluating risks are really part of a solid opportunity and answer to the challenges that COVID brings along. But a quick follow up here, what we're also sort of observing less on the technology point of view, but more on the market opportunity point of view. 5 years, 6 years ago, everyone has been referring to Indonesia, to the sort of tier one Indonesia. The opportunities might be more in Jakarta and Surabaya and in Bandung, and because the GDP per capita levels were among the highest. There was addressable markets, the highest smartphone penetration. But over the last few years, we've also seen increasingly tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 Indonesia sort of becoming more and more digitized. With you as a business, you know, playing in the logistics field, you emphasizing on the rural or lack of customer experience on the rural space. How do you now reevaluate the playing field in Indonesia from a addressable market opportunity point of view?
Actually, I can answer this question with, and also refer to the previous question. So, you know, recently, Waresix has been, you know, involved with oxygen concentrator distribution, right? And, you know, we've been selected to kind of head this kind of difficult endeavor, right? There's a lot of urgency involved, obviously, right? There's lives at stake. There's a lot of uncertainty involved because things are changing, where they need to go, who needs to receive them, etc. It's very dynamic, right? And they need to go everywhere, right? We've had like requests for, I need to get this to Papua in the next day, right? And you're taking basically non-digitized players, like multiple number of non-digitized stakeholders, and like kind of putting them in one. And of course, you want this to be very, very transparent, right? Because you have donators, you have operators, you have suppliers, and everybody wants to know what's going on. And so I think this is a good case study, I guess you could say, where it's a little bit of validation. We came in with our product offering and being able to offer a solution very quickly, ramping it up and getting it out everywhere, right? And you're talking about, maybe 6 oxygen concentrators to one hospital in this area, and then, another 7 or 8 to that one over there. So you're having to do like multi-pick and multi-drop solutions all over the nations, including small cities. And the small cities and towns is the critical part because they're the ones that are the most lacking in help, right? And so it's things like this that enable us to, prove our proof of concept, but also to reinvest, right? Oh, when we're executing this, it turns out we had this one problem. Well, now we have a great excuse to fix it and optimize it and do it better the next time, right? So I guess that's how we look at it. And, we have 50,000 trucks on the network. And logistics is a hyper-local game. But logistics also is a network game, right? And so when you're going to the small towns and you have aggregated a bunch of the demand and supply, this just enables you on a business model level to, execute better, more consistently at better prices. And so what we've been doing is actually not just focusing on Java, where most of the population is. It's going out there to the underserved areas in order to provide that better user experience that I talked about earlier.
Thanks, Eric. Very insightful and touching upon this point of how to win and serve underserved segments of Indonesia market and key ingredients of really maintaining your market leading position, Paul. What would you think forward looking in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now? Where will Bluebird Group be? And what do you think are the key underlying metrics to look at to know that you're on the right track to succeed?
Yeah. So I just like reiterate what Eric just said, right? The key to the future is partnership. Mm-hmm. This is why Bluebird alone, we are already available in 20 cities, right? With our partner, we are available in 45 cities. That's how actually we leverage our logistic network and also transportation, because we cannot do it alone. And also what Eric said, right? Logistics is a very hyper-local market. You want to build a network, it will cost you a lot. How to build a network that's going to sustain you for the future? Go for the partnership. Then how can you create an offering that your partner will create like a win-win situation that they want to continue with you for the next 5 years or 10 years from now? The battle for the next 5 years is actually will be the battle who will be the major 5 top performers in this logistic area. Who will actually have the network and the partnership that can provide your services across to these tier 2, tier 3 cities. By going alone, only Java, by going alone in only Jakarta, it's not going to fulfill your needs anymore. Yes, Java is about 60% of the population. Sumatra is about 20% of the population. But that's not the challenge. So the next battle will be interesting. Let's go for it.
Exciting. And going into the next battle, what are you doing to prepare for it? And how can you assess, Eric, that you'll succeed in maintaining the impressive market leading position that Waresix has established over the last few years?
People, 100% it's people, right? It's hiring the best talent and having those strong infrastructures to develop that talent internally. And I guess combining with that culture of letting people experiment, letting people grow, try new things, not having that fear, having the courage to do so. I think that's absolutely the best way to do it.
Thanks, Eric. What great closing words. I think we're ending right by the minute. So just to quickly wrap up the panel, what we have learned that, despite meaningful growth in the respective industries that Paul and Eric are playing in, they cannot preserve themselves from getting impacted by COVID. But there's a certain couple of elements to look at to ensure that you can master such challenging times as well and be resilient. You have to look into short-term initiatives to restructure debt, to get yourself even deeper in operational excellence. You'll also have short-term initiatives to help with the most pressing medical needs that Waresix has been doing to distribute oxygen across the Indonesian population. But we also have been seeing into ways to reassess risk to better plan for the unforeseeable scenarios. And we also have been looking into ways to diversify your business units in order to look into industries to capitalize on strong momentum fueled by COVID, such as Bluebird did fantastic by going into logistics space. Forward looking, there's two key things to look at. Number one, it's partnerships. Partnerships by serving underserved segments of the Indonesian population. The market is bigger than just the key cities in Java or Sumatra alone. And the second key element is people. To continue to hire best-in-class and industry-leading people across all of your levels, starting from C-level up onto the manager level. So with that sort of thoughts, would like to thank my fellow panelists, Eric and Paul, for their time. Hope to the audience it was an insightful session, and thanks again.